Have you ever found yourself drained, frustrated, or even invisible because you've been trying too hard to please others? Let me ask you this. How many times have you bitten your tongue when you really wanted to say no? How often have you agreed to things just to avoid conflict or rejection, even if it came at your expense? You're not alone. Many people believe that being nice is the key to relationships, success, and personal fulfillment. But what if I told you that this belief is deeply flawed? What if I told you that excessive niceness doesn't lead to respect or connection, but to burnout, resentment, and even toxic dynamics? And here's the worst part. It's a trap. One that keeps you in a cycle of overgiving, undervaluing yourself, and attracting people who take advantage of your kindness. This isn't a call to stop being kind. Quite the opposite. Kindness, when balanced with self-respect, is one of the most powerful tools for building Stoic relationships and living a meaningful life. The problem is when kindness crosses the line into over-niceness, when fear, guilt, or the need for validation drive your actions instead of your true values. Today we'll break this cycle. We'll explore the hidden costs of being overly nice, uncover why it happens, and provide actionable steps to help you reclaim your power without losing your compassion. You'll discover how to say no with grace, set boundaries without guilt, and embrace the kind of balanced kindness that Stoicism champions, a kindness that serves both you and those around you. So let's begin with the first step, understanding the hidden costs of being overly nice. And by the end of this, you'll not only see why it's essential to stop, but also how doing so can transform your relationships in your life. 1. The hidden costs of being overly nice. Do you know what it truly costs to be overly nice? Most people don't think about it. They assume that being agreeable, accommodating, and conflict-averse is harmless or even virtuous. But let's dig deeper. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you're giving away a piece of your energy. Think about it. How many times have you agreed to help someone move house, stayed late at work, or taken on someone else's responsibilities just because you didn't want to seem rude? And how did that make you feel afterward? Exhausted, overwhelmed, resentful. These are the hidden costs of being overly nice, and they're far more damaging than you might realize. Burnout is one of the most common consequences. When you prioritize others over yourself again and again, you deplete your emotional and physical resources. It's like running on an empty tank of gas and wondering why you feel so drained. And let's not forget the toll this takes on your mental health. Constantly suppressing your needs and desires leads to frustration, self-doubt, and even depression over time. But the cost doesn't stop there. Over-niceness has a ripple effect on your relationships. Paradoxically, the more you give, the less others respect you. People start to see your kindness as a weakness or take it for granted. They assume you'll always say yes, so they stop appreciating the effort you put in. In Stoic relationships, mutual respect is the foundation, but over-niceness erodes this balance, leaving you feeling unvalued and unseen. Another hidden cost is the loss of authenticity. When you're overly nice, you're not being true to yourself. You might think you're keeping the peace, but in reality, you're creating a facade. You're not expressing your true thoughts, feelings, or boundaries, which means others never get to know the real you. And if they don't know the real you, how can they truly connect with you? Now ask yourself, is it worth it? Is the approval you gain from being overly nice worth the price you pay in energy, respect, and authenticity? Stoicism teaches us to focus on what's within our control, our actions, our values, and our sense of self. Being overly nice shifts your focus outward, giving away your power to others. Here's the truth. The more you give up your needs for the sake of being nice, the less you'll have to give in the long run. Real kindness, balanced kindness, starts with self-respect. It's about giving from a place of abundance, not from a sense of obligation or fear. And this kind of kindness doesn't just benefit you, it strengthens your relationships and builds genuine connection. So what's the first step toward reclaiming your energy and authenticity? Start by recognizing the hidden costs of over-niceness in your own life. Reflect on the times you've overextended yourself, ignored your boundaries, or sacrificed your needs for others. How did it feel? What did it cost you? By bringing these patterns to light, you can begin to change them. And remember, this isn't about becoming selfish or cold-hearted. It's about finding balance, a balance that allows you to be kind without losing yourself. Stoicism reminds us that true strength lies in living according to our values, not in seeking approval from others. So ask yourself, are you living for their validation or your values? In the next section, we'll dive into why people become overly nice in the first place. Because understanding the root cause is essential to breaking free from this cycle. And trust me, once you see the why behind this behavior, you'll never look at over-niceness the same way again. 2. Why people become overly nice. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever asked yourself why you feel compelled to be overly nice? What's driving this constant need to avoid conflict, to please everyone, or to be seen as agreeable? To break free from this cycle, it's essential to uncover the root cause of the behavior. After all, you can't fix what you don't fully understand. For many people, the urge to be overly nice stems from a deep-seated fear of rejection. Think back to a time when you said yes to something you didn't want to do. Maybe you volunteered for an extra task at work or agreed to help a friend, even though you were already stretched thin. Why did you do it? Often it's because we're afraid of disappointing others or being judged as selfish. But here's the truth. This fear is more about perception than reality. The question is, are you letting this fear control your life? Another major driver of over-niceness is the desire for validation. Many people equate being liked with being valuable. If others think you're kind, helpful, or selfless, then surely that means you're a good person, right? But this mindset is flawed. Validation from others is fleeting and unreliable. It's like building your house on sand. Stoicism teaches us that true worth comes from within, from living according to our values and principles, not from how others perceive us. Now let's talk about upbringing. Were you taught to always put others first? Maybe as a child you were praised for being nice or helpful, and over time you began to associate those traits with love and acceptance. Or perhaps conflict in your family or social environment made you feel that being agreeable was the safest path. Whatever the case, these early lessons often shape our behavior well into adulthood. Society also plays a role. Cultural norms often glorify selflessness, especially for certain groups. Women, for example, are frequently expected to be nurturing and accommodating, while men might feel pressure to avoid confrontation to keep the peace. These stereotypes create unrealistic expectations, leading many people to suppress their true feelings and needs to fit into the mold. But ask yourself, are you living for society's approval or your own truth? Another reason people fall into the trap of over-niceness is the desire to avoid confrontation. Let's face it, most of us don't enjoy conflict. It's uncomfortable, awkward, and sometimes downright scary. But avoiding confrontation doesn't make the underlying issues go away. In fact, it often makes them worse. When you continually suppress your thoughts and feelings, resentment builds. And ironically, this pent-up frustration can lead to bigger, more explosive conflicts down the line. So what can you do to break free from these patterns? It starts with awareness. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. Do you recognize any of these drivers in your behavior? Fear of rejection, desire for validation, avoidance of conflict. Once you identify the root cause, you can begin to address it. One of the most powerful tools for change is self-reflection. Stoicism encourages us to examine our thoughts and actions regularly. Ask yourself, am I acting out of fear or principle? Am I seeking external approval, or am I living in alignment with my values? This kind of introspection is the first step toward reclaiming your autonomy and building healthier, stoic relationships. Another key step is challenging your beliefs. For example, if you believe that saying no makes you a bad person, question that belief. Is it really true? Or is it a narrative you've internalized over time? Remind yourself that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's essential for your well-being and the quality of your relationships. And let's talk about courage. Changing deeply ingrained habits isn't easy, especially when it involves confronting your fears. But as Stoicism teaches, true courage lies in facing discomfort and doing what's right, even when it's hard. Saying no, standing up for yourself, and expressing your true feelings may feel uncomfortable at first, but over time, these actions will strengthen your sense of self-respect and resilience. As you begin this journey, it's important to be patient with yourself. Breaking the habit of over-niceness won't happen overnight. There will be moments of self-doubt, guilt, or even setbacks. But remember, growth is a process, not a destination. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small, and keep moving forward. Now, let's create a moment of interaction. If this part of the video resonates with you, like and comment number 1 below to let us know you're ready to break free from the cycle of over-niceness. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more content like this. We're here to support you on your journey toward personal growth and healthier relationships. In the next section, we'll explore the fine line between kindness and over-niceness. Because here's the thing, kindness isn't the problem, it's the imbalance that creates issues. Stick around, because understanding this distinction is key to transforming how you show up in the world. 3. The fine line between kindness and over-niceness. Have you ever stopped to consider the difference between kindness and over-niceness? On the surface, they might look similar, but in reality, they come from entirely different places. Kindness is intentional, grounded, and rooted in a deep sense of self-respect. Over-niceness, on the other hand, is often driven by fear, guilt, or the desperate need for approval. Recognizing this distinction is critical because one empowers you while the other drains you. Imagine this scenario. A friend asks you for help with a project. You're already overwhelmed with your own responsibilities, but instead of saying no, you agree to help. Why? Perhaps you're afraid of upsetting them, or maybe you think declining would make you seem selfish. While your actions might appear kind, they're actually a form of self-neglect. Over-niceness isn't about giving freely, it's about giving under pressure. Kindness, in contrast, comes from a place of abundance. When you're truly kind, you give because you want to, not because you feel you have to. There's no hidden agenda, no expectation of reciprocation, and no sense of obligation. Kindness respects both your needs and the needs of others. Over-niceness, however, tips the balance. It prioritizes others at your expense, often leaving you feeling drained or resentful. One way to distinguish between the two is to examine your motivations. Ask yourself, why am I saying yes to this request? Is it because I genuinely want to help, or because I feel pressured to avoid conflict or gain approval? Stoicism teaches us to act in alignment with our principles, not out of fear or the need for validation. When your actions reflect your values, you'll find that they're much more fulfilling. Another key difference lies in the outcomes. Kindness fosters mutual respect and genuine connection. When you act with kindness, people see you as compassionate and strong. They value your help because they know it comes from the heart. Over-niceness, however, can have the opposite effect. It often leads to imbalanced relationships where your efforts are taken for granted. Worse, it can attract people who exploit your willingness to please. Think about the phrase, "you can't pour from an empty cup." It's a simple yet profound truth. Kindness allows you to keep your cup full, so you can share your energy and care with others without depleting yourself. Over-niceness, on the other hand, empties your cup entirely, leaving you with nothing to give. In Stoicism, we learn the importance of maintaining inner strength and composure. To do this, you must prioritize your well-being and protect your boundaries. Let's consider another example. A coworker asks you to stay late and help with their tasks. If you're practicing kindness, you might agree if you genuinely have the time and energy. But if you're being overly nice, you'll say yes even if it disrupts your plans or adds unnecessary stress. Over time, this pattern can lead to frustration and resentment, not just toward others, but toward yourself for not standing firm. It's important to understand that kindness and boundaries go hand in hand. Setting boundaries doesn't make you unkind, it makes you honest. When you communicate your limits clearly and respectfully, you teach others to value and respect your time and energy. Boundaries are not walls, they're guidelines for how you can give without compromising yourself. At this point, you might be wondering, how do I strike this balance? How can I be kind without crossing into over-niceness? The answer lies in self-awareness and intentionality. First, tune into your feelings. If you notice discomfort, hesitation, or resentment when saying yes, it's a sign that you might be acting out of over-niceness. Second, practice pausing before responding to requests. Take a moment to consider whether saying yes aligns with your values and capacity. Another powerful tool is learning to say no with grace. Saying no doesn't have to be harsh or confrontational. It can be as simple as, "I'd love to help, but I'm not available right now." By being honest and respectful, you maintain your integrity while honoring your limits. This approach embodies the principles of Stoicism. It allows you to act with both courage and wisdom. Remember, being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. True kindness requires strength, clarity, and balance. It's about giving from a place of authenticity, not obligation. When you embrace this mindset, you'll find that your actions feel more meaningful, your relationships become more balanced, and your sense of self-respect deepens. The next time you're faced with a request, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, is this a genuine act of kindness, or am I falling into the trap of over-niceness? By making this distinction, you can begin to shift your behavior and reclaim your power. And as you do, you'll discover the profound difference between giving freely and giving out of fear. In the following section, we'll explore how over-niceness affects your relationships. Because here's the thing, when you consistently prioritize others over yourself, it doesn't just impact you, it impacts how others see and treat you. Stick around, because understanding this dynamic is the key to creating healthier, more fulfilling connections. 4. The negative impact on your relationships. Have you ever thought about how being overly nice might actually harm your relationships instead of strengthening them? At first glance, constantly saying yes, being agreeable, and always prioritizing others might seem like the recipe for deep, meaningful connections. But the reality is often the opposite. When you consistently put others first at the expense of your own needs, you unintentionally undermine the respect others have for you. Over time, this pattern can lead to people seeing you as someone who is easy to push around or take for granted, which is the last thing you want in a meaningful relationship. The most painful part of this dynamic is that it often leaves you feeling resentful. When you overextend yourself to help others, whether it's at work, with friends, or in your family, you might notice a growing frustration when your efforts aren't reciprocated or appreciated. That resentment doesn't just harm you, it creates tension and distance in the very relationships you're trying to nurture. Stoic relationships thrive on mutual respect and honesty, but over-niceness throws off that balance, leaving you feeling undervalued and misunderstood. One of the most damaging aspects of being overly nice is how it shapes others' expectations of you. If you're always the one to help out, people start to assume you'll always be available, no matter what. This creates unrealistic expectations that are hard to break. The first time you say no or draw a boundary, you might even notice others reacting with surprise, disappointment, or frustration. It's not because you're wrong for setting limits, it's because you've unintentionally trained them to expect endless availability. Over-niceness can also give off a sense of inauthenticity. When you constantly suppress your true feelings or say yes when you don't mean it, others might start to sense that something isn't genuine. This lack of authenticity can create a disconnect in your relationships, preventing true closeness. If you think about it, real connection only happens when both parties are honest about who they are and what they need. When you're overly nice, you rob others of the chance to know the real you. Perhaps one of the most troubling effects of over-niceness is how it attracts toxic people. Manipulators and exploiters are often drawn to those who have difficulty setting boundaries. They see your kindness as an opportunity rather than something to be respected. Even well-meaning friends or family members can fall into the habit of taking advantage of your generosity, not because they're malicious, but because you haven't expressed your limits. Breaking free from this pattern starts with awareness. Ask yourself, are your relationships balanced, or do they feel one-sided? Do you feel respected and valued, or is your effort often taken for granted? Once you recognize the dynamics at play, you can begin to shift them by setting healthy boundaries. Saying no doesn't mean you're unkind, it means you're honest about your limits. When you approach your relationships with clarity and respect, you'll find that others respond in kind. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on your own relationships. And if you're ready to break free from the cycle of over-niceness, like this video and comment number 1 below. By engaging, you're taking a step toward creating stronger, healthier relationships. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights on building authentic connections grounded in Stoicism. The next part of this journey is about recognizing the specific signs of over-niceness in your life. Stick around, because this awareness is where true transformation begins. 5. Recognizing the signs of over-niceness in your life. How do you know if you've crossed the line from being kind to being overly nice? It's not always easy to spot, especially if over-niceness has become a deeply ingrained habit. But self-awareness is the key to breaking free from this pattern, and the first step is recognizing the signs. So let's take a closer look at the behaviors and feelings that often indicate you're being overly nice. Start by asking yourself, how often do you say yes to things you don't want to do? This could be agreeing to help a coworker when you're already overwhelmed, accepting social invitations when you need rest, or taking on extra responsibilities at home because it feels easier than saying no. Over-niceness often manifests as a knee-jerk yes to avoid disappointing others, even when it comes at the expense of your time, energy, and well-being. Another clear sign is the guilt you feel when you try to set boundaries. Have you ever mustered the courage to say no, only to be plagued with feelings of guilt afterward? That guilt doesn't come from doing something wrong, it comes from the false belief that prioritizing yourself is selfish. Stoicism reminds us that living in alignment with our values isn't selfish, it's essential. If saying no leaves you feeling like you failed someone, it's a sign that over-niceness has taken root. Over-niceness also reveals itself in the way you handle conflict, or more accurately, avoid it. Do you shy away from confrontation, even when something important is at stake? Maybe you let a friend's hurtful comment slide to keep the peace, or you avoid addressing an issue at work because you don't want to seem difficult. While avoiding conflict might seem like the nice thing to do, it often leads to unresolved tension and growing resentment. The truth is, healthy conflict is a normal and necessary part of authentic relationships. Another indicator is how often you prioritize others' needs over your own. Think about the last time you had a choice between doing something for yourself or for someone else. Did you feel compelled to put their needs first, even if it meant sacrificing something important to you? While kindness is about giving, over-niceness often involves giving at the cost of your own well-being. This imbalance isn't sustainable and can leave you feeling emotionally and physically depleted. Here's a big question. Do you feel taken for granted? Over-niceness often leads to imbalanced relationships where others expect you to be endlessly accommodating. Over time, this dynamic can erode mutual respect and leave you feeling unappreciated. If you often find yourself thinking, "Why doesn't anyone consider my needs?" It might be because you've trained others to assume you'll always put them first. A less obvious but equally telling sign of over-niceness is the way you communicate, or don't communicate, your true feelings. Do you avoid expressing your opinions, especially if they might upset someone? Do you downplay your emotions to appear agreeable? When you suppress your authentic self to maintain harmony, you deny others the opportunity to know the real you. This lack of authenticity can create shallow relationships that lack the depth and connection you truly desire. Finally, pay attention to how often you feel resentment. Resentment is a key indicator that your boundaries have been crossed. It's your mind and body's way of telling you that something isn't right. If you find yourself frequently annoyed or frustrated with others, it might be because you've been saying yes when you really meant no. Recognizing these signs in your life can be uncomfortable, but it's an essential step toward change. Awareness is the foundation of Stoicism. It allows you to take responsibility for your actions and align them with your principles. When you identify the ways in which over-niceness shows up in your life, you gain the power to change those patterns and reclaim your authenticity. The beauty of self-awareness is that it creates space for growth. Once you see where over-niceness has been holding you back, you can start making intentional choices to create a more balanced, fulfilling life. Remember, kindness isn't about saying yes to everything. It's about acting with integrity and respecting your own needs as much as you respect others. So take some time to reflect. Where have you been overly nice in your life? What has it cost you? And how might your relationships and sense of self change if you started setting healthier boundaries? In the next section, we'll explore exactly how to do that, with practical steps you can take to break the cycle of over-niceness and embrace a more balanced way of being. Because knowing the problem is only the beginning, what comes next is action. 6. Practical steps to stop being overly nice. Now that you've identified the signs of over-niceness in your life, let's talk about what you can do to break the cycle. Because recognizing the problem is only half the battle. Action is where real change happens. But let me ask you this. Are you ready to prioritize your well-being and build healthier, more balanced relationships? If you are, these practical steps will help you get started. The first step is learning to say no with kindness. For many people, the idea of saying no feels uncomfortable, even terrifying. But here's the truth. Saying no doesn't make you a bad person, it makes you an honest one. Start small. Practice turning down low-stakes requests in a way that feels natural to you. For example, if someone asks for your time when you're unavailable, you can simply say, "I'd love to help, but I can't right now." Notice how this approach is polite yet firm. It respects both their needs and your own. Another powerful step is to set clear boundaries. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're about defining what you're willing and able to give. Think of them as the rules of engagement for your relationships. For instance, if you're always the one staying late at work while others leave on time, it might be time to set a boundary around your availability. Communicate this boundary respectfully, such as, "I'll be leaving at 5 p.m. today because I need to recharge for tomorrow." Boundaries like this help protect your energy and prevent burnout. It's also important to shift your mindset around conflict. Many people avoid setting boundaries because they fear confrontation. But not all conflict is bad. In fact, healthy conflict can lead to deeper understanding and stronger connections. The next time you feel tempted to avoid a difficult conversation, ask yourself, what's more important, temporary discomfort or long-term resentment? Remember, Stoic relationships thrive on honesty, and addressing issues directly is a form of respect for both yourself and the other person. Let's not forget the power of self-reflection. Take time each day to check in with yourself. Ask, did I act in alignment with my values today? Were there moments when I said yes out of obligation rather than genuine desire? Journaling or simply reflecting on these questions can help you stay accountable and build greater self-awareness. Over time, this practice will help you recognize when you're slipping into old patterns and empower you to course correct. Another key step is to reframe your understanding of kindness. True kindness isn't about giving endlessly, it's about giving intentionally. When you give from a place of abundance, when your cup is full, you can offer your time and energy without resentment. But when you give out of fear, guilt, or the need for approval, you're not truly being kind, you're depleting yourself. Shift your focus from pleasing others to acting with integrity, and you'll find that your kindness feels more authentic and impactful. Building confidence in your ability to set limits is also essential. Confidence doesn't come overnight, but it does grow with practice. Start by celebrating small wins. Did you say no to something that didn't serve you? Did you set a boundary and stick to it? Acknowledge these moments as victories, no matter how small they may seem. With each step, you'll strengthen your self-respect and become more comfortable prioritizing your needs. One of the most transformative steps is to surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries. Pay attention to how others respond when you start asserting yourself. Do they respect your limits, or do they push back? Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect. So if someone consistently disregards your boundaries, it might be time to reevaluate that connection. Remember, Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our actions and choices, not on changing others. If you're ready to take these steps, let's create a moment of accountability. Like this video and comment number 1 below to show your commitment to breaking the cycle of over-niceness. Your engagement matters. It's a declaration that you're ready to prioritize yourself and embrace a more balanced way of being. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more practical insights on Stoicism and building stronger relationships. In the next section, we'll address the discomfort that often comes with change, Because let's be honest, breaking old habits isn't easy, and learning to stop being overly nice can feel uncomfortable at first. But stick with it, and you'll discover that the rewards, authenticity, respect, and true connection are well worth the effort. 7. How to handle the discomfort of changing your behavior. Let's face it, change is rarely comfortable. Breaking free from the habit of being overly nice can feel unsettling, especially if you've spent years prioritizing others' needs over your own. But discomfort is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. In fact, it's often a sign that you're growing. The question is, how do you navigate this discomfort without letting it pull you back into old habits? The first thing to understand is that discomfort is temporary. When you start saying no more often or setting boundaries, you might feel guilt or anxiety at first. This is normal. Your mind is simply adjusting to a new way of operating. Instead of viewing these feelings as obstacles, try to see them as part of the process. They're signals that you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, and that's where growth happens. One way to handle this discomfort is to reframe your perspective. Ask yourself, why am I feeling guilty? Is it because I'm truly doing something wrong, or because I've been conditioned to equate saying no with selfishness? When you dig deeper, you'll often find that the guilt isn't based on reality but on outdated beliefs. By questioning these beliefs, you can begin to replace them with more empowering ones. Another strategy is to focus on the long-term benefits of your actions. Yes, saying no to someone might feel awkward in the moment, but what's the alternative? If you keep saying yes out of obligation, you'll likely end up feeling resentful and drained. Remind yourself that setting boundaries isn't about being mean, it's about creating healthier, more balanced relationships in the long run. Stoicism teaches us to prioritize what's within our control, and your choices and actions are always within your control. It's also helpful to practice self-compassion. Change is hard, and you're not going to get it right every time. There will be moments when you slip back into over-niceness or struggle to enforce a boundary. Instead of beating yourself up, acknowledge that you're human and that growth is a journey, not a destination. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small, and use any setbacks as opportunities to learn and improve. Another important aspect of navigating discomfort is to prepare for pushback from others. Not everyone will immediately understand or appreciate your new boundaries, especially if they've grown accustomed to your over-niceness. Some people might react with confusion, frustration, or even guilt tripping. This doesn't mean you're wrong for setting boundaries, it means the dynamic is shifting. Stay firm and remember that their reactions are about them, not about you. When facing pushback, it can be helpful to have a few go-to responses ready. For example, if someone questions why you're saying no, you might calmly reply, "I'm prioritizing my well-being right now, and I hope you can understand." Simple, respectful statements like this can diffuse tension while reinforcing your boundaries. Building a support system can also make a huge difference. Surround yourself with people who understand and respect your journey. Share your experiences with trusted friends, family members, or a mentor. They can offer encouragement, validation, and perspective when the discomfort feels overwhelming. And if you're struggling to navigate this change on your own, consider seeking guidance from a coach or therapist. There's no shame in asking for help, it's a sign of strength. It's also worth reflecting on the Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control. Discomfort is part of life, and while you can't eliminate it entirely, you can control how you respond to it. Instead of avoiding discomfort, lean into it. Embrace it as a sign that you're stepping into your power and living more authentically. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Finally, remember that change doesn't happen overnight. Breaking the habit of over-niceness is a gradual process, and it's okay to take it one step at a time. Start small. Practice saying no in situations where the stakes are low. Set boundaries with people you feel most comfortable with. As you build confidence and see the positive effects of your actions, it will become easier to apply these changes in more challenging situations. Discomfort is a natural part of growth, but it's also a sign that you're moving closer to the life and relationships you truly want. Each time you step outside your comfort zone, you're building the strength, resilience, and self-respect needed to live in alignment with your values. In the next section, we'll explore the benefits of balanced kindness and how it can transform not only your relationships but also your overall sense of self. Because the ultimate goal isn't just to stop being overly nice, it's to embrace a way of being that's both compassionate and empowering. Stay with us because the best is yet to come. 8. The benefits of balanced kindness. What happens when you finally strike the balance between kindness and self-respect? Imagine a version of yourself where you give freely, but only when it aligns with your values and capacity. You're no longer saying yes out of obligation or fear of judgment. Instead, you're showing up authentically with kindness that comes from a place of strength, not depletion. This is the power of balanced kindness, and its benefits can transform your relationships, your confidence, and your life. One of the most immediate benefits is that you'll start to feel more in control of your life. When you stop overcommitting and prioritize your needs, you reclaim your time and energy. No longer are you spread thin, running from one obligation to the next just to keep others happy. Instead, you're intentional about where you invest yourself, ensuring that your actions reflect your values and goals. This shift is empowering. It allows you to live with greater clarity and purpose. Balanced kindness also creates healthier relationships. When you set boundaries and express your true feelings, you foster mutual respect. Others begin to see you not as someone who can be pushed around, but as someone with integrity and self-awareness. Genuine connection thrives in this environment. Stoic relationships, grounded in respect and balance, naturally deepen when both parties are honest and intentional about their interactions. Another powerful benefit is the boost to your self-confidence. Each time you assert yourself, whether by saying no to something that doesn't serve you or by setting a boundary, you reinforce your sense of self-worth. Confidence isn't built in a single moment, it's built in small, consistent actions that show you value yourself. Over time, these moments add up, creating a version of you who isn't afraid to stand firm in your truth. Let's not overlook the emotional freedom that comes with balanced kindness. When you stop overextending yourself, you let go of resentment. No longer are you harboring frustration toward others for taking too much or toward yourself for giving too much. This emotional clarity allows you to approach your relationships with a sense of peace and authenticity. You give because you want to, not because you feel you have to, which makes your kindness more genuine and impactful. Balanced kindness also brings a profound sense of fulfillment. When you live in alignment with your values, you create a life that feels meaningful and true to who you are. This isn't about abandoning kindness, it's about redefining it. Stoicism reminds us that true kindness begins with self-respect. When you honor your own needs, you're better equipped to show up for others in a way that's sustainable and sincere. On a practical level, balanced kindness helps you manage your time and energy more effectively. Instead of overcommitting, you become more discerning about where to invest yourself. This doesn't mean you stop helping others, it means you help in ways that feel purposeful and aligned. By doing less of what drains you and more of what uplifts you, you create space for the things that truly matter. Now let's talk about the ripple effect. When you embody balanced kindness, you set an example for those around you. Others begin to see the strength in your boundaries and the authenticity in your actions. You inspire them to reflect on their own behavior and consider how they can create healthier dynamics in their own lives. This kind of leadership isn't loud or forceful, it's quiet, grounded, and deeply impactful. Finally, balanced kindness allows you to experience relationships on a deeper level. When you're no longer performing or people-pleasing, you open the door to genuine connection. People are drawn to authenticity, and when you show up as your true self, you create space for others to do the same. These connections aren't based on obligation or pretense, they're built on mutual respect and trust. If you're ready to embrace the power of balanced kindness, take a moment to reflect on what this could mean for your life. How might your relationships change? How might your confidence grow? And how might you feel knowing that your kindness is a reflection of your strength, not your fear? If this resonates with you, like this video and comment number 1 below. Let us know that you're ready to step into this new chapter of your life. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel for more insights on building stoic relationships, practicing stoicism, and living a life that reflects your highest values. The journey to balanced kindness isn't always easy, but it's worth every step. By prioritizing your self-respect and aligning your actions with your principles, you'll create a life that feels authentic, empowered, and deeply fulfilling. Breaking free from the habit of being overly nice is no small task. It requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to face discomfort. But as we've explored, the rewards are profound. When you shift from over-niceness to balanced kindness, you reclaim your energy, rebuild your confidence, and create stronger, more authentic relationships. You stop living for others' approval and start living in alignment with your values, a transformation that touches every aspect of your life. So what's next? It's time to take action. Remember, change doesn't happen overnight, but every small step counts. Begin by reflecting on what you've learned today. Where have you been overly nice in your life? What boundaries need to be set? And most importantly, what kind of person do you want to become? With each no you say to something that doesn't serve you, you're saying yes to your own well-being and authenticity. True kindness begins with self-respect. When you value yourself, you teach others to value you too. By practicing balanced kindness, you'll not only strengthen your Stoic relationships, but also create a life that feels grounded, meaningful, and true to who you are. If this journey has inspired you, don't stop here. Comment number 1 below if you're ready to embrace balanced kindness. Like this video if it resonated with you, and subscribe to this channel for more content that empowers you to live authentically and cultivate meaningful connections. Thank you for joining us today. We're honored to be part of your journey toward growth and self-discovery. Until next time, take care, set those boundaries, and remember you're stronger than you think. See you in the next video.